I was born and raised in Nigeria, so out of necessity, I guess, my parents and brothers and friends thought they could utilize me as their shipping company. There was one day in particular, I went to the airport and I had 10 suitcases. And I remember vividly the lady across the counter, it was a Delta flight, the lady across the counter looking at me like up and down, like, you are not serious. This is not gonna happen. So I decided to build an app.
Jandus Radio started off with just word of mouth. I sent it to a couple of friends who wanted to listen to live radio back home. We didn't have a lot of apps that were catering to African content and radio at that time. So I sent it out to them and they sent it to their friends. And before you know it, it actually was a trending topic in Nigeria on Twitter for like, I think it was 12 hours straight. People were talking about, oh my God, I have an app that has over like 300 radio stations. I'm in Abuja, I can listen to Beat FM. Beat FM is the most popular station in Lagos. And they're like, oh my God, I could never listen to this before. Now with this app, I can listen to my favorite station now.
You know, I'm working on a platform product, which is payments, right? And I started digging into that and realized like it was an absolute nightmare to be a developer and get paid in Africa. I'll give you an example. Like up until recently, if you were an Android developer in Africa, you had to put your apps up for free. You couldn't make money on your apps because there was no way for Google to pay you. We're not just enabling people the ability to increase revenue by providing them new means of payment, but we're also enabling them to access global technology services by doing so, right? That is revolutionary.
The concept was, let's bring all of these tools that you use to build your company and your apps and infrastructure, let's bring them into one place and organize it. And other industries had done it. You know, Yelp has done it for restaurants, you know, TripAdvisor for travel and international places. So this wasn't really a new concept, but no one had really done this for software. If you think about it today, you know, where do you go for software decisions? It's still Googling around and it's mad. We were actually the first site to really do that. You know, there were other sites that were trying to do sort of similar things. They've done software reviews, but we were actually the first site to say, you know, share all the software that you're using.
For an average entrepreneur in Silicon Valley, there are stages to what the venture funding cycle looks like. You have to start off with a seed stage. You have to be able to get people who believe in you early enough to take a risk in your idea. Every time an entrepreneur describes what they do, it usually has to hit the points of, I saw a problem, it was very unique, I had a solution, it was very unique, I was able to get, or I should be able to get somebody to pay me for my solution, but I should be able to repeat that so many times that it becomes scalable and sustainable.
I know people who have joined a startup that thinks it's going to be the next big thing. And then you just wake up one morning and they didn't get the funding round and it's lock up shop. And that's it. Happens a lot more often than it's talked about. We hear about the Facebook and Google and Apple and all the other startups that are successful, but 1 out of a million succeed and the rest fail.
Silicon Valley is probably the Disneyland of capitalism, is a good way to put it. It is a place where you can come and make your dreams come true, and particularly in the technology space, it's a really, 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 really a good ecosystem to get things done. Yeah, and of course part of it's venture capital, right? So people take risks here, and it's a place that's tolerant of failure.
They're not looking necessarily for the steady company, they're looking for companies that will grow quickly. A lot of them will fail. They won't get their money back. Some of them will bring some money back, and a small percentage of them will hopefully bring a big return. The Draper Venture Network's mission is to be in all the places where interesting technology is being developed, where entrepreneurs are doing great things. And right now, we have partner funds on all the continents except Africa. So we're actively looking for a fund that fits the kind of profile we're looking for. They're investing in early stage technology companies.
It's not an exact science. A lot of it's just character assessment. People who are trying to build something bold versus like copying an idea. In it for the long term, have the tenacity and ambition to see it through, boldness. Yeah, definitely think e-commerce is a huge area, allowing Africans to buy products they couldn't otherwise access easily, particularly without having to build huge malls and kind of leapfrogging retail. Financial services is also a big area. FinTech, anything around telemedicine, because access to doctors is really hard in Africa.
What everybody hears is you raise the 100 million, they say, yeah. But that's not success. Success is lasting long enough till you can exit, either through an acquisition or an IPO, and the money that the investors get in becomes liquid and fungible. So a lot of businesses I've seen don't make it out of the exit, and that means everybody gets washed out. You just spend 7-8 years of your life working on this thing that didn't pan out.
The 5 or 6 most valuable companies on the stock exchange are technology companies that were once venture-backed. So it's a compelling story about how people that invest in high-risk ventures are able to move a society forward because they were willing to make the investment when those ventures looked silly. And one thinks maybe this could happen in Africa.
We belong to the school of thought that that believes very firmly that Africa's future will be built on the back of entrepreneurs. We are firmly rooted in bridging those knowledge gaps and making sure that the interconnectedness between Africa and the rest of the world comes in forms of capital, in forms of education and resources, and mostly its people and their ability to think and grow beyond what's currently attainable by using technology to flatten the playing field.
Zebracorn is going to be a company that's built in Africa, for Africa, and scaled in Africa. It could become a unicorn by going beyond Africa, but made in Africa, scaled in Africa, serves multiple African markets. And that's really what distinguishes Zebracorn.
So the first piece of code I wrote was my freshman year in college. I was like 16. I took Java, and it was a program to like animate some radio, and I was able to code it, and I'm like, oh wait, it works. Like I just wrote code. I typed stuff and I ran it and it worked. I got thrown into mobile app development towards like 2010, where I created an app that went viral in Nigeria. Initially, it just started off as just radio and nothing else. So I said, what about news? What about gossip news, entertainment, sports, health news? Then I was like, okay, we can make this a little more social. What about having people interact on the app?
I'd always been into tech. Growing up, I was like the tech person within our family. People would always look to me. So I'd always been interested in it, but I'd never considered it as a real career path because I didn't have someone that I could point to that was in that industry. Everyone I knew was, sort of outside of tech.
I started to look at the internet as this space where it didn't matter who you were, but you were able to reach the most amount of people.
Hey, good to meet you, I'm Mark.
Mark Zuckerberg was my earliest influence. I've continued to be influenced by his approach to tech because it's the perfect mix of social mission, right, and economic impact. It's not about building a big company, and neither is it about being an NGO and giving everything away. It's about building a system.
Introducing Mall for Africa,
So let's say you are in a rural town in Nigeria. Download the app on your preferred device, find the product you want. Once you've added it to the cart, you click on Our Pay button, and as they say, that's when the magic happens. We take the content from the cart, we put it in our environment, and now we allow you to select where you want to have the item shipped, how you want to pay for the product. Once you've made the payment for the product is then shipped from the site you purchased it from. It's shipped to our warehouse, then we tag it, and then we ship it out to you, taking care of all customs, duties, fees, and making sure everything goes perfectly right.
When I turned 25, kind of just reviewing the 5 years, I kind of settled on this vision of the world that was about building the future of Africa. And for me, it settles on 3 things. So it's a remarkably clear vision of what I want to do. And it's very simple. It's people, it's platforms, and it's policy.
Andela is a platform for tech-powered growth.
Its future will be written in Lagos,
Nairobi,
and cities across Africa.
And that was what we did at Andela, right? Found really smart young people, very motivated, with high learning agility, paid them while we taught them how to build software, and then got Facebook and Google and IBM and all these companies to hire them to build products for them.
This is Andela.
So what Flutterwave is, it's an API that enables anyone from anywhere in the world to process any kind of payment across Africa. We are finally making financial inclusion real.
Every time I went to one of these hackathons, I'd see a new API and I'd think, man, I should know about that. Like, there should be this one online space that has all the best stuff and feedback from developers and engineers and people actually building software, you know? I was like, man, this should exist and I should just go build it, you know? And so I just treated it as a side project at first. At the time, it was called LeanStack. Eventually, I got introduced to this guy named Nick Grandy, and he was the first employee at Airbnb. So we started working together for about 6 months. We built out the first real version of LeanStack at the time, and then he actually stayed on as an advisor, and he was the first investor. So, you know, that was big.
We had a hosting company that had malfunction in their servers, and they deleted the whole database by accident and had no backup. Sadly, we had to shut down temporarily, but we're working on rebuilding.
We believe the best way to solve this problem is to show you what the best companies in the world are using and why.
The transition was, it's like realizing that the best thing we can do is try to mimic an in-person conversation between two people, the two engineers, right? It's like, okay, what's the problem you're trying to solve? Oh, okay, well, we don't have good visibility into how our app is performing in production. Okay, well, here's what we use, right? Like, here's how we solve that problem, right? And you tell them what you use, and then, like, within 30 minutes, it's like, okay, I know that I need to use that now because I trust this person, I trust their decision-making process, and it sounds like a good one to go with, so let me go with that.
I have a passion for creating products that I am interested in and that I'm passionate about. It's tough because at the same time, you have to make a living. And being a startup founder, you don't always have the means to provide for yourself. I didn't have any of that, any serious investors. So after a while, I just to keep myself from not starving, I actually had to break down and actually get a 9-to-5 just so I can provide for myself.
I basically just kept at it because I saw the value of it and I saw that it was picking up steam. I could see it getting easier.
So you typically wake up around 4:35 because that's when the first calls are. My team all over the world, I try and talk to them as regularly as I can. I'll probably end around 12, only because I like to sync up with some banks and team members very early in the morning when they wake up. So it's a lot of work and not a lot of sleep.
Definitely, it's a lot of work because the 9-to-5 does take a lot of your time. But always in your free time, even if it's an hour or 2 hours a day that you can find, I'm always doing that. I'm working on something right now, that I'm hoping is going to be very massively successful once I'm ready.
You go to a venture capital in Palo Alto on Sanio Road and you say, hey, I'm trying to raise funds for my African company. And they look at you and they say, are people buying Ralph Lauren? Are people buying Louis Vuitton? Do they know who Prada is?
So I think part of the challenge with being black in tech is that there just aren't enough black people in tech. When you see all the big companies, they all have like co-founders that went to school together. And when you grow up with people that aren't in tech, you don't have the luxury of saying, okay, I'm gonna start a company and I know exactly who I'm gonna tag and bring in as co-founders or early employees.
What role do networks play here in Silicon Valley? I think it's a huge, huge role. It might be the distinctive of Silicon Valley, how over time these networks have grown. Cold call somebody or send a cold email to somebody and say, hey, I saw this thing that you did, and surprise, surprise, they respond.
There's a lot of work that has to be done, the cultural preparation of what to expect in the Valley. And sometimes it's the most ridiculous, mundane, simple things. Punctuality at meetings, the way you approach people, email etiquette, business etiquette. It's the simplest things that have profound consequences within a cross-cultural scenario.
Growing up in Nigeria, as an African in Nigeria, I have natural networks. I have cousins, I have brothers, I have classmates. I like to say I can get to the president in Nigeria, whereas in the US, I can't even get to my mayor. If you are not from here, it's very difficult for you to have a social network. You have to create that social network yourself.
We want to make it.
If you came into Silicon Valley and you're a well-trained research and development professional and you went to Stanford or UCSF and you were a specialist in what you do, you'll get a great job and you'll get well paid. If you came into Silicon Valley and you were
where I work right now, I'm the only female mobile engineer. I'm also the only black mobile engineer. It's not something that I expected. The culture fit is still a big topic here. You wouldn't think that people can refuse to hire you because you don't fit into a culture.
It's happened in small ways where, you go to a meeting with an investor and you can tell that they just don't want to hear what you have to say. And, maybe it's your venture, maybe it's like what you're working on, but sometimes you can kind of feel that it's just because of you and like your color, and they're not even open to it. They just don't have to deal with people of color on a regular basis. From my perspective, I just brush it off and I'm just like, okay, not for me, let's move on.
If a company just invested time and said, look, we're going to sponsor you, we're going to provide your visa, your work visa.
An entrepreneur or, a black founder, it's like, oh, that's normal.
Hey, it's good. How's it going? I'm back sooner than you thought, huh? Yeah. How was the integration? Was it good? What you want to do as an African in the Valley is really plug into as many networks as you can, because that's ultimately kind of how you find the people who are ultimately going to root for your success.
I definitely see myself doing this for the next, at least 5 to 10 years. And I think anytime you're building a company, you have to be thinking long term. I'm also a realist, and I know that if the worst happens, right, we get to a certain stage where it's like, look, we've sort of like exhausted all of our options, and this is the best we can do with this thing. There'll be something else that I work on.
I think the biggest impact that an African entrepreneur can have on Africa is to be seen, be a role model. Be something and someone that people want to aspire to be like. Be successful.
Thank you, Eddie. All right.
Apple actually has a woman of African descent. She's actually Ghanaian. That's one of their top people in marketing. Her name is Bozoma St. John. And that's what I'm trying to achieve. I don't want to fit in, because I feel like when you fit in, you don't stand out.
Come on, y'all.
I love the Valley, but I only love it to the extent that I can establish these networks between the Valley and Africa that make Africa better. And I think that's ultimately the vision of Africa that we believe Flutterwave is going to enable. One Africa, starting with unified financial infrastructure.
I'm doing 7 figures, even 8 figures a year. This is a really good idea and it's a good company to work with. My vision for Mall for Africa is bigger than Mall for Africa. It's actually a mall for the world. The vision is to help other emerging markets via a brand Mall for the world. And we've already started doing that.
We are sitting on a huge powder keg of potential in Africa. Over the next 20 to 30 years, more than half of the world's working population is going to live in Africa. It's the second largest continent in the world by size and by people. I don't think there's any narrative of the world that is complete without Africa being a major part or player in it. For us, winning means being able to come back in 10, 15 years and say, technology changed Africa, and you were in part of one of the greatest wealth creation, value creation opportunities in modern history. That's what winning is.
Okay.
Hello?
Hey, how you doing?
Hi everyone. Since we last met, we have made a lot of progress and done a lot of great things. We're under a new name called Mall for the World, which is same thing as Mall for Africa, but outside of Africa.
I have released a new app called Afrocast, and basically it's a podcast aggregator for millennials. So far we are in beta. We have over 300 users, so I'm really excited about that.
We launched a new jobs platform that allows engineers to essentially find jobs based on the technology they're familiar with. We've had our best month ever in terms of traffic. We were also featured in Software Development Times, online magazine for engineers and developers.
Flutterwave has been doing really well. Since that time, we've more than 10 times our total process volume. So we do about $500 million in total process volume, and we do more than $100 million in total process volume every month.
Come back to the West Coast.
First of all, symptoms of COVID-19 in children are very clear. You talk about fever. Most of the times it could be low-grade fever, oftentimes continuous high-grade fever that is not relapsing with your regular paracetamols and your tepid sponging. One of the other symptoms, aside the respiratory symptoms that you have to look out for, is the stooling and vomiting. It's been seen to have very strong effect on stooling and vomiting in recent times among children. And when you do a culture for that, you don't see anything. There are no bacterial infections associated with it. So then, of course, the baseline is your respiratory findings, which you can have the regular cough, nasal discharge a few times, but dry cough more often in children. You want to watch out for temperature changes. You want to watch out for, loss of appetite and some catarrh for a long time, what we know as nasal discharge. Then you have to teach and model hygiene, all right? A good hygiene practice, using the hand sanitizer, washing your hand regularly, in fact, should be the stated one. And in cases of no water, you can teach them for hand sanitizers, especially those more than 60% alcohol. And then they don't necessarily have to use the face mask often, but you must teach the intake of good, clean water. And then more importantly is diet. You know, you cannot just give any child any food now. You have to pay attention to vegetables, greens especially. You have to have a high protein diet and high calorie diet. For example, fat and oil is important for a child to improve their metabolic state, for protein to improve their growth rate, and more importantly, fruits to improve minerals and vitamins. And so you're not doing substitute of fruits, you're doing the real fruits, the vegetables, and things like pear, cashew nut, watermelon, cucumber. Very important for them right now. Pawpaw has been seen to be very effective, especially for vitamin E, and you know it contains the tocopherols, vitamin E and Co, which is very important for their immunity. So you're focusing on building their immunity, and you're focusing on them having a good diet. So a summary of what parents should do in preventing COVID-19 amongst your children is: 1, teaching and modeling good health or hygiene practices. You don't just teach it, let them watch you and let them be conversant with it. Secondly, you must monitor their health. Don't take anything for granted. Once you notice fever for more than 24 hours, you want to report to the hospital and be sure that that fever is not stepping its bound. The third and very important thing, you want to see that this child is eating appropriately, and appropriately not giving junks. You want to see that they're eating the right protein, high protein diet, a good calorie, which is fat and oil, and lastly, vegetables, of course, fruits and vegetables, so that they can build their immunity. Don't necessarily do fruit substitute. Some people want to do multivitamin. Those are placebos. They're good, but it cannot take the place of the right diet per time, greens and vegetables.
Thanks for joining us on Plus News Updates. I am Annetta Felix. The arraignment of former Minister of Aviation, Senator Stella Oduah, has been stalled. Counsel to the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, Dr. Hassan Liman, told the court that they had been unable to serve Oduah with the court processes. Justice Iyangeko of the Federal High Court, Abuja, adjourned the matter until April 19th for the suspects to take their plea. Oduah currently represents Anambra North Senatorial District at the National Assembly. She's facing a 5 billion naira fraud charge alongside 8 others. The Kaduna State government has confirmed that some bandits killed a father and a son in Igabi local government area of the state. Commissioner for Internal Security and Home Affairs, Samuel Arwan, said that security agencies had reported that armed bandits invaded Baka village in Igabi local government area on Saturday night. Arwan also said the bandits operated in groups and abducted some persons, mostly women and children. According to him, troops mobilized to the location, engaged the bandits and rescued about 13 captives from one of the bandits' groups. The commissioner said that Governor Nasir El-Rufai expressed grief over the attack and condoled the family of the slain, praying for the repose of their souls. The Chief of Army Staff, Major General Ibrahim Atahiru, has issued a 48-hour deadline for the troops of Operation Lafia Doli to recapture Mate from Boko Haram terror.
Responsibility. It is now high time we get back and fight through and support our forces ahead of you. Areas around Marte, Chukungudu, Karanua, up to Kita will go must be cleared in the next 48 hours. You will be rest assured of all the support required in this very onerous task.
Governor Abubakar Sani Bello of Niger State has received the 53 abducted passengers of the state-owned Niger State Transport Authority. The governor received the abducted passengers at the Government House Mina on Sunday at about 11:35 p.m. The NSTA passengers were seized by armed bandits in Rijal on February 14. The passengers were on their way to Mina but were intercepted at Kundu village on Mina Tegina Road in the Rafi local government area. The governor said the victims were released by their abductors after thorough negotiations and consultations between the government and the suspected bandits. The Nigeria Air Force has released the names of officers who died in the Beechcraft King Air B350I plane crash. In a statement issued by the Air Force spokesman Ibikunle Darmola, the officers are Flight Lieutenant Haruna Gadzama, Captain; Flight Lieutenant Henry Pio, Co-Pilot; Flying Officer Michael Opara, Airborne Tactical Observation System Specialist, ATOS. Others include Warrant Officer Basi Etim, ATOS Specialist; Flight Sergeant Olasukomi Olawumi, ATOS Specialist; Sergeant Ugochukwu Oluka, ATOS Specialist; Aircraftsman Adewale Johnson, onboard technician. The jet en route Mina in Niger State crashed close to the runway of the Abuja airport after reporting engine failure. The NAF spokesman explained that Chief of the Air Staff, Air Vice Marshal Oladayo Amo, has ordered an immediate probe into the accident. Condolences have been pouring into the families of the 7 military personnel who lost their lives in an air crash on Sunday in Abuja. President of the Senate, Ahmed Lawan, expressed shock over the crash while condoling with families of those killed in the accident and praying that God would comfort them in their time of grief. He also called on the Nigerian Air Force to reinforce safety measures to prevent future occurrence. Also, Chairman of the House of Representatives Committee on Air Force, Shehu Koko, representing APC Kebbi State, has commiserated with the Nigerian Air Force and families of the victims. On his part, the Minister of Defense, retired Major General Bashir Magashi, said the death of the officers and airmen in the line of duty would never be forgotten. In other parts of Africa, 7 election workers were killed on Sunday in Niger's western Tillaberi region when their vehicle hit a landmine. Governor Tijani Ibrahim told newsmen that the blast also injured 3 of the workers, who included the heads of polling stations. The team had been sent by the Tillaberi branch of the National Independent Electoral Commission, (CENI), to monitor the presidential election runoff between frontrunner Mohamed Bazoum and former President Mohamed Usman. The vaccination against Ebola in Guinea has been delayed as the plane carrying a batch of vaccine doses was unable to land due to fog. The Guinea branch of the World Health Organization, WHO, said this on Sunday via Twitter. The statement said the plane carrying the Ebola vaccines was unable to land in Conakry, Guinea capital due to logistics issues. The plane was redirected to Senegal. The Ebola vaccination was due to start in Guinea on Monday, but it has now been rescheduled until Tuesday, February 22nd. According to the latest data from the World Health Organization, there are 8 Ebola cases and 1 death in Guinea. Outside Africa, German Foreign Minister Heiko Maas says the European Union may impose sanctions on Myanmar because of the military coup and crackdown on the opposition in the country. Maas said they would work to de-escalate the situation, but will also reserve the right to use sanctions against the military regime as a last resort. The army seized power after alleging fraud in the November 8th elections, which Aung San Suu Kyi won. Myanmar's Assistance Association for Political Prisoners said 640 people have been arrested, charged or sentenced since the coup on February 1st. Hong Kong's leader Carrie Lam and top officials has received China's Sinovac vaccine on Monday, February 22nd. He took the vaccine at a live televised event to boost public confidence ahead of the vaccine rollouts this week. 1 million doses of the Sinovac vaccine arrived from Beijing in the former British colony on Friday, February 19th.
I'm extremely pleased that I and my principal officials have come to this community vaccination center to receive the first dose of COVID-19 vaccine. We are taking the Sinovac vaccine today, which was developed and manufactured in the mainland, because this is the first vaccine that has arrived in Hong Kong last Friday with a total of 1 million doses. This act of us kickstarts a very important vaccination program in Hong Kong. We are very determined, very committed to rolling out a free and universal vaccination program for the people of Hong Kong so that we could get ourselves out of this epidemic as soon as possible. So I would appeal to all residents in Hong Kong, when your turn comes, please register on the internet and come forward to receive your jab as soon as possible.
In business, the federal government will meet with state governors and the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, NNPC, on Thursday to find a solution to the issue of right pricing for premium motor spirits, PMS, in the country. The Minister of Labour and Employment, Senator Chris Ngige, said this while speaking with newsmen at the end of a meeting between the federal government and the organised labour on Monday in Abuja. The meeting is in continuation of a series of meetings held in the year 2020 in a bid to persuade labour unions from embarking on industrial action over the increase in the price of petrol and electricity. Ngige said the meeting with organised labour was peaceful and productive. In entertainment, the Copyright Society of Nigeria, COSON, has mourned the death of veteran musician Chris Ajilo, who died at the age of 91. The musician died in his hometown in Ijebu-Ijesha, Osun State, on Saturday, February 20th, after a brief illness. The chairman of COSON, Tony Okoroji, paid tribute to the high life veteran, saying that Nigeria has lost an irreplaceable music icon. American actor James Franco and two former students at a Los Angeles acting school he founded have settled a lawsuit which accused the star of sexual misconduct. According to the agreement, Sarah Kaplan and Tony Gall have dropped their claims. The women had alleged that the Nollywood actor engaged in sexually charged behavior towards them, but Franco's lawyers described the claims as false and inflammatory. In sports, Abia State Governor Okezie Ikpeazu has congratulated the players and management of Enyimba International Football Club of Aba on their qualification for the group stages of the 2020-2021 CAF Confederations Cup. Enyimba FC secured the qualification on Sunday when they defeated Rivers United Football Club of Port Harcourt at Adoki Stadium in Port Harcourt after a penalty shootout. Reacting to this, Governor Ikpeazu urged the team to prepare even harder for the group stages of the highly competitive Continental Tournament. He charged them to go all out and bring the CAF Confederations Cup home to Aba. That's the news at this hour. For more stories and updates, please follow us at Plus TV Africa on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And please do subscribe to our YouTube channel at Plus TV Africa. We'll be back later with more stories. I am Annetta Felix. Thanks for watching.
for upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Buki November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on Plus TV Africa.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
It's been an unusual year for us all. We've been forced to learn to adapt to the changes that COVID-19 has brought upon us. However the cards may have been dealt to us this year, we have remained resilient. The Afrima Fashion Show stems from the Afrima Award Show, which is the biggest African award show in the diaspora. Every year, we have showcased designers and we bring together people from all over the world. This year, the Afrima Runway is graced by the top 3 African designers who have welcomed the challenge of doing a virtual runway show without any physical audience. Don Murphy, Ese Ezanabo, and lastly, Sai Sanko. Let the show begin.
Hi guys, my name is Sai Sankar and I am a luxury resort wear designer and I make the most amazing and fabulous kaftans and everything that you desire for traveling. I just really love the way women carried themselves back then, you know, the Marilyn Monroes, you know. It was sexy, but there was still glamour to it, you know, and elegance and sophistication. And I feel that's what my designs are about, you know. I've also been inspired just by my continent, the continent of Africa. Growing up in Sierra Leone, it's just this beautiful, bustling colors, you know, it's so vibrant, the marketplaces, you know, Christmas, it's just, everything about it is just so energetic and it's so powerful and colorful and it just makes me really happy. And so no matter what collection I do, it always goes back to that. And so that's why you see all this colorful prints and all these bold colors, you know. I feel women wearing it, it just makes them so extremely happy, you know, and they look absolutely gorgeous in it too.
My name is Ese Grambowski,
and I am the designer and owner for SA Azinabor Atelier. My source of inspiration for my designs, number one, to be honest, comes from God, because I go to sleep literally and dream about my designs. And that only has to be from God. So I always give credit to Him for that. And of course, my culture is very influenced in my design. I've been designing since I was 8 years old. Even before that, my mom would tell me wild stories of me taking her fabrics and cutting them into pieces and making a dress or a skirt or pants out of her expensive African materials that she had in our home back in Nigeria when I was growing up. And I draw a lot of inspirations from where I've been, and I just try to tie them into modern design mixed with vintage designs, mixed with traditional looks, and just tie it all together in a bowl to create a true SA Azinabor couture piece.
Hello, my name is Daniel Mofo. I'm the founder and designer of Don Murphy, a men's luxury custom suit clothing in Dallas, Texas. Fashion is color. In the past, men were all very scared of, the colors. They were used to the blacks, the grays. But now, if you look at fashion, men wear almost bolder colors than women, You see men in red suits, men in yellow suits, men in pink suits. So for me, fashion is color.